It's a plot to drop the IQ, fighting amongst each other over rumors that don't like you. Prefer us trapped in melancholy with the wood ones, the holly suggestions that obliterate to camouflage the folly. Attempted mental robbery, executed sloppily. Hypocrisy, this mockery, and walk the talk with me. Put the hands up to touch the Akasha, cause you know deep down there's something bigger than your wallet.
Sweet eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful, friends. Welcome back to Rogue Soul, where tonight we're talking about heart-centered healing. Who is a heart-centered healer? Why are they heart-centered healers? How do people do heart-centered healing? And more. That is the show tonight. Let's just jump straight into it. I always would like to invite you first to roguesoul.org. This is the site for everything that I do, and I do so much. So it's not just the show. I also have books that I have channeled and written. I have offerings for you as far as one-on-one services that you can schedule right here on the site by clicking schedule or receive healing. You can choose from tarot, from past life, from sound healing, from spirit guide sessions, and more. That's all here on the site, even though it's not showing you right now. Oh, there it goes. I also do events. The One Day of Brightness event is coming up. This is actually the last One Day of Brightness event. We've been doing these for 5 years. I've been organizing, putting these together, calling people to it. Offer spiritual guidance, healing, teaching, practices, and more for 5 years, every solstice and equinox. And this is the last one of this, title in this form. Me, I will be offering, things like the Violet Flame healing sessions and the attunements and other group sort of blessing and offering sessions. They just won't be called One Day of Brightness. And they won't be in that format where it's kind of all day and a much longer experience. There'll be sort of those 1 hour or so sessions. And so, we'll still have them, but this is the last one. So, if you've ever been to any of them, I know you might want to come to sort of honor what they have been. Many of you have been to all of them, which has been really a deep honor for me. And many of you have just come to some of them here or there. Everyone who has come has realized how powerful they are and how much they get out of those events. So this last one will be in conjunction with the autumnal equinox coming up here. We're there, guys. Summer is ending / over soon, and we're moving right into fall. So I know it feels like fall where you guys are at, a lot of you. And this is the event to kick into that alignment with that transfer of seasons, that change of seasons, and all of that goes with it. So come to One Day of Brightness, the last one that you'll ever have access to. I'm so sad and happy, sad and happy that this is how it is. This is just my guidance around it, that this is the last one. People are like, is that because the world's ending? I'm like, no, it's not. It's just the time. One Day of Brightness, the soul of One Day of Brightness has done what it came here to do. And we're moving on to other things. So very beautiful, very cool. I also do lightning oracle sessions every other Tuesday. That's also a group experience and blessing. And you can also receive a message directly for you about any question or problem or issue that you might have, or just a general message from your spiritual guides. So very accessible, very easy and cheap to join with the lightning oracle round. And again, all those other types of sessions, healing sessions, spirit guide sessions, sound healing, and even coaching and talk. If you just want to chat for an hour about anything you want to learn from me, anything you just want to share and talk about, you can be sort of counseling and therapeutic. All of that is here on the site. You can also go to the shop and you can check out the classes I offer, the Powerful Orgone, and more. That is there in the shop. So that's all at roguesoul.org. I also invite you to rogueways.substack.com, where the channeled messages from the spiritual ancestors come through me into this space. And it's also other articles that I write. It's also musings. It's also reflections. It's also sort of book presses. I sort of distill a book down for you and just give you some choice quotes and points of the book. So I always link to the book so you can read it, usually for free. These are all free books for the most part. That's all here. So there's a lot on the Substack that you get. Subscribe there for sure. No matter who you are, you should be subscribed to my Substack. It's also a great way to keep in touch, to be alerted to things like One Day of Brightness events or the cosmic transmissions, the vigils, all of those things. It's a good way to keep in touch. It's a good way to know what's going on. And again, all that free content And then subscribe at the paid level if you want to get those channel messages from the spiritual ancestors instead of just a preview of them. So it's also a great way to just support the show. So you get those channel messages as a perk. It really is a way to support me and what I do, the show, if you love what you find here. And I appreciate all of you who support me in that way and who receive all of those free channel messages for that reason. So rogueways.substack.com. Also linked to from the site. So speaking of my Substack, I wrote just a handful of days ago as of this show, the universe speaks through you. And I say, open the channel to all that is good, true, and beautiful in service of all of yourself and all of the world. So this is a little bit about my own journey into becoming what I call a heart-centered healer, a spiritual healer, a channeler, spiritual channeler, and an energy healer. And, you can call it anything you want. Most of my teachers throughout my life that I never once sought out, but that I was thrown into the lap of over and over again. Most of them were shamans. So a lot of my training and, learning is shamanic. And again, I didn't ask for any of it. I didn't look for any of it. This was just my life. This was just the path that I was going to take. My soul had this all worked out for me far ahead of time. I would have strongly resisted any of it. And that's exactly why it happened the way it did. I'm a very logical person. I'm a very materialistic person, as in, I should say, a materialist. I come from a materialist scientific background, not materialistic. Like, I like things and I collect objects. I'm actually the opposite of that. I'm like one of the most down to earth, least materialistic people you've probably ever met. But a very materialist person in that I consider myself a logician. I like logic. I like thinking. I am a very intelligent person. I like science, right? I like critical thought. And I was definitely not a sort of creative, left-brained, mystic or any of these sorts of things. I just wasn't that. And so I wouldn't have sought these things out. That's why my soul sort of threw me into these. Despite that, I was actually always tapped in. I came into this life tapped in. And so in this article on Substack, I actually talk about that. And again, sort of my path to heart-centered healing or shamanic healing or whatever you want to call it, energy healing, doesn't matter. But people have a million names and they're all the same thing. And I'm not sorry if you don't agree. I know a lot of people get really attached to the label they've been given or the path they've specifically chosen, but it really is all one path and it's all one thing. There's a million routes to it, right? And there's a million ways to call it and describe it. And you should follow the one that resonates with you most. But they're all good, true, and beautiful, and they're all really one thing. So I talk about this. I talk about when I was young, I talked to trees, clouds, animals, and anything alive. Eventually, I realized other people not only did not do that, but they thought I was strange when I knew things I, quote, shouldn't know, or reacted to what they could not hear or see. So when I was young, I was doing this all the time. I didn't know other people weren't talking to trees and talking. I was just doing it in my mind, in my heart. I was just receiving information from clouds, from trees, from the earth, from my guides who I didn't realize were real. And, I didn't know that other people weren't doing that. I just thought this is the way it was, and this is how everybody is. No matter how you are, especially when you're young, you just assume everyone else is like that because you have no way of knowing otherwise. So when people were like weirded out when I knew things I supposedly shouldn't know, or I had too advanced of knowledge of something I was never taught officially, right, in school and classrooms or from an adult, they were super creeped out by it. And I noticed, as all kids would. As all kids know, energy and emotions, and kids are kind of the best, perhaps, at staying in touch with that intuition or maybe even empathy, right? I could tell that it made them uncomfortable. I'd be in a classroom and all these kids would be learning something, and I'd be like so bored. I'm like, this was obvious. The moment you mentioned the topic, I understood. And sometimes I didn't. I want to say that like I never learned a single thing from anything or anyone. Obviously, I'm always learning, and technically how to do especially technical things. I needed to gather that in this brain in this lifetime. But a lot of things sort of came in with me. A lot of things came from animals, from trees and stuff. And I even remember when I was very young, a stray cat found me. And I knew what she needed and what she was saying. I was 2 years old and I brought this stray cat home, and I insisted that we give her a place to be safe, a little box, because I knew she was going to give birth. I knew she was pregnant and she needed our help in order to give birth to her kittens. So my parents, were tripped out. They're like, how does this little 2-year-old know what a cat giving birth is or needs? Or like, how did this happen? Right. So right off the bat, I was in touch and in tune and doing this. I say in the article, saw auras and wondered why other people did not react in appropriate ways to what someone was feeling or thinking, but not saying. It turns out most people were walking around with half the information I had or less. And like many children, as I grew, that caused me to stop paying attention to the information that I still continued to receive, but that I could not share without being shunned or treated strangely. This is another thing. A lot of kids see auras. They might not all be sort of receiving all this information like I was, or at least not as much as I was, right? We do all come in with sort of different levels of that based on our prior lives, work and karma and what we've sort of been dedicated to over various lifetimes. It takes more than one lifetime to get to a place of higher consciousness. So that's true, but all kids see auras and sense information like emotion, right? I mean, that's just body language. That's just something that bodies actually do. So we have this, and you'll often see a kid, get sort of like handed to someone and just start screaming. And everyone's like, oh, weird. Like what are they doing? And they're like embarrassed because their kid's screaming but really the kid's like sensing something in that person's aura, or literally seeing it in their aura that they don't want to be around. It's dragging them down. It's polluted. Right. And oftentimes parents will like force their kid to like sit on the lap of a Santa with a dark aura. And it's like, what are you doing to your child? But what you're actually doing, it's just what happened to me, is you're teaching them that information doesn't matter. Don't pay attention to it. It's not something you need to think about or practice. And like all things, if you don't practice it, it dwindles into the background. It starts to become this unused thing. If you don't use a muscle, it atrophies. It's the same with our skills, our channels, our spiritual abilities, our mental abilities, all of it. So you start to lose it. So a lot of kids will have a lot of these gifts and these knowings and these understandings or these abilities. And then about the age of 7 or so, they lose it. That's when your brain changes. It becomes more sort of locked into the material, awake and aware level of consciousness. It's less dreamlike. It's less, it's not less connected, but it is the point at which you may move away from all of those things. You may have internalized this message that those things don't matter. And so you're going to let those things atrophy. So we start to see a lot of kids 7 and older no longer have as much of that, at least in the sort of, top level of their being, right? It's not out here being shown to the world and practiced. So I say in teenage years, I began to have experiences that are still hard for me to find in others, meaning I don't meet many people who have had any of the experiences that I've had. Every once in a while, I've met just a small handful, and I've had this show. I've interviewed hundreds of people of all sorts of walks of lives, and been able to ask them about their spiritual experiences, their, mental and emotional experiences, their psychological experiences, all of these things, near-death experiences. And I've met a small handful of people that have had anything even remotely like what I've experienced in my life, very small. So especially in my teenage years, pre-internet, nobody could help me understand any of the things I was experiencing, really. And so I say most people have never had interactions with interdimensional intelligences. Most have never experienced a poltergeist. Most have never seen and talked to a demon. Most are not even aware of their own psychic faculties, right? So even if we're talking about energy healing or being psychic or using our intuition, a lot of people just have no real connection with that. It is not because they're not psychic. It's not because they haven't had profound experiences. It's because they've been trained out of recognizing them. They've been trained out of talking about them. Sometimes if you give people enough time to sit and reflect and they feel safe enough and open enough, they'll remember a profound experience that they had buried. Something like an interaction with an interdimensional being or an angelic being or something like this. But they buried it away because no one listened at the time. No one believed them. And probably every time they tried to bring it up, someone laughed or told them they were crazy. Right? So they just start to let all that go. So yeah, it's hard to find people who have had a lot of these experiences, or at least remember them, know them, talk about them, and have sort of empowered themselves to work with these types of energies in their life. So, no, I'm not complaining. I'm just describing my path, right? And you may sort of be seeing a little bit of yourself in some of these moments too. You may not have had most people haven't had as many profound, crazy experiences as I've had, but I have never actually met someone when, again, we get to that point where they can actually let it out, be safe, that hasn't had some of these experiences, at least one or two, right? The one that's most common that I bring up here in this article too is everybody. I've never met anyone who hasn't had the experience of thinking about someone and then they call or text. Thinking about someone and then you literally run into them at the store. Like, I was just thinking about you. The other day, it was actually a little bit more sad for me. The other day, I was thinking of someone I hadn't thought of in years and years and years. And we used to hang out when I was a teenager, and we just lost touch like so many people do, and no hard feelings or anything. And I was just remembering like what a cool person they were and how fun they were to hang out with. And, I wonder what they're up to down. I wonder what they're doing. I wish them well. And just that sort of thought. I hadn't thought about them for decades. Not even once, not even in passing. They're not on social media, like no contact, no thoughts at all. Thought about them the next day, found out they had just died the day before. So, you may have had those experiences too, where it's more than just thinking of them and they call. It's like, something happened, or you have a more profound sort of recognition of their soul in some way. And most people have had something like that, right? And what this should tell you is that everybody's psychic. Everybody's connected. Everybody's an empath. Most people have shut it off, turned it off, tuned it out, ran from it screaming, like maybe, right? But everybody has it. There's no human body or being that cannot access this. It doesn't matter if you're mentally challenged, developmentally challenged, physically challenged. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how much you've practiced any kind of spiritual thing in your life, or nothing. Nothing can stop you. Again, we all have varying degrees of how far we're going to be able to get in this life with it. Sure. But there's no one who it's cut off from. There's no one who can't do it. So we all actually have this. Everyone is capable of doing this. But for some people, it freaks them out. Again, they have an experience like that and then they shut down or run from it. It's not that other people told them to shut it down. It's that they shut it down. They are actually, it's a bit too much to them. It's a bit too expansive of like, okay, well then what actually am I? And what is this place? And right, that's a bit much for some people. That's okay. Not everyone has to step into their psychic faculties or their higher self or their, spiritual channel. It's not required. And it's okay. There's no judgment for the people who don't. Everybody's on their path. They'll get there someday, right? We've all been where they're at. Nothing wrong with it. But if you do start asking, well, what is this? And looking deeper and, wondering about like UFOs or angels or ghosts or, life beyond death or near-death experiences or this stuff, past lives, all this stuff, then usually the universe starts piling it on. It's like, yeah. Yep, you're right. Here's more evidence. Here's more experiences. Here's more, right? And it turns out, as I say here in this Substack, everything around us is much richer and more divinely intertwined, constantly communicating, and part of one giant tapestry of life, light, and love. Our simple imaginations, something everyone is born with, but not all are accustomed to using, are far more powerful than we know. It's actually a divine gift, our imagination. I say life speaks back to you once you notice it's not just an accidental set of chemical and electric impulses in various levels of flesh suits on a dead rock in infinite space. What life is like, oh, you've noticed. Oh, yeah, here you go then. Here's more, right? I say life is what it sounds like, alive. All of it. Life is everything you can see, hear, smell, taste, and touch, and everything you may not know you can know, intuit, receive from afar, and sense. I say if you're one of the many people waking up to the truth of your innate abilities, far more amazing than any technology we can dream up, or someone who has long since realized the language of synchronicity and symbolism inherent in all communication on higher levels, I invite you to heart-centered healing. I say this is the first time I've been called to offer direct, step-by-step, practical, and application-based energy healing modalities and instruction to people this practically. It's a special time in human development and advancement. And if any part of you has wondered if you can communicate at higher levels, receive knowing, transmit energy, and heal yourself and others, the universe is here screaming at you, yes. Yes, you can, actually. And if any of that even sounds remotely interesting or enticing to you, it's because a part of you knows that's what you're supposed to do. Right? Not everyone's going to become like the most, they're not going to like float around in a bubble of light and just tap people and heal them. And right. But every single one of us has the ability to tap into the highest energies, allow them to come through and offer them to other people. There's always going to be variation in that, just like in anything we do. We'll go all ride bikes and we'll see some of us are straighter or wobble more, or like go faster or slower. Like, yeah, but we can all ride a bike. All right, some of us need a little bit different bike if we're going to do it, but you know what I mean, right? You get what I'm putting down. So I said, join me and many others in learning how to use the energy healing techniques. You will get direct experience and practice in energy healing in the Heart-Centered Healer course. Let the universe speak to you and through you for your and everyone's highest good. Know it, live it, be it. And so I'm offering this course. And as I say here in this description, it is the most practical and application-based thing I've ever done. A lot of the classes I've been called to offer are much more, let's understand this place and ourselves on this, esoteric spiritual level. Let's understand some practices we can use to get deeper into that understanding and align more fully with it, right? Here's some modalities that will eventually lead you to be able to do energy healing or channeling or psychic work. And then here's a little bit of that. Here's a few things you can be doing that prove to you that you can see auras and know things from afar and, right, send and receive messages on a higher level, all those things. But this is the first time I've been called to offer something that's like, here is how you do energy healing. And also, let's do some. So it's a pretty big, very profound class. And I asked my guidance, like, why now? And there was two reasons I was given. One is we just did the Blazing Brightness retreat. And so I myself have sort of received like an up-leveling of what it is I can offer people and have it remain in high integrity and goodness for myself and them. That's a part of it, right? So I've been prepared and I'm more ready than ever to do something like this. But also, I could have taught this technically, right? Just the steps and the aspects and what it actually is. I could have done this years ago. But so why now? So other than, I'm more prepared or more ready or just I have a wider spiritual channel, right? In order to hold this much space for this many people at one time to step into higher levels of themselves. But also, it's the time right now on Earth for way more people to get way more into this, like to get way more into their higher self, to get way more into the knowing of their gifts and their divine connection, and to be actually practicing it. And there's many reasons why, right? Well, one is literally there's higher consciousness coming into the earth plane every moment. And that's going to continue to be true until we get that big galactic wave of energy that's headed our way that I've been talking about for 5 years. And also because if there is some chaos, which there's going to be, there's always destruction with new creation. So as this energy wave or this consciousness hits us and people step up into it, there's also going to be chaos. There's going to be, things that are troublesome, a little bit heavy. And so the more of us who are able to accurately, correctly, in safety, step into a higher spiritual channel and allow things to come through, the better off we're all going to be. So this also may feel to you like a duty or like a calling or like this is the time for you to be of higher service, right? And I want to say too right now, because I'm being guided to, if it terrifies you, that's an even more reason to do it, actually. It terrified me. I didn't want to do any of this. Not even a little bit. It took me quite a while to be forced into it by my soul, my spiritual guides. So, I love it. I'm in honor of it. I'm very grateful I get to do this. I'm absolutely humility, right, around it. I just also being honest, it wasn't what I was terrified of doing this. Terrified of the responsibility, and so much about it. It requires a lot of inner growth. So if it terrifies you, that's not a reason to not do it, right? If you feel this call, if you feel this is what I'm supposed to do, this is the time for me, this is where I can actually learn it. Who knows what I'll do with it after this, but I at least need to get it for myself. You should probably answer that call. The fear means go forward, actually. Move through the fear. So this is a recent article. You can read it more fully if you want to on the Substack, rogueways.substack.com. And I link here to the course. So if you want to check it out, you can, and we will in a moment. But, I want to tell you about what you actually get very, very more specifically, if you do this class. And one of the things we're going to be studying in great detail are the energy pathways of the body. So, the chakras, and this is something that is, you think you can find it anywhere, but you might be surprised how many people are absolutely wrong about it. Even people who have quite big followings are not super correct about it. And I'm not saying that I'm like special in having this information. This information has been known for many, many thousands of years, much more than we even acknowledge in our understanding of history, right? So that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying what you find if you just go looking, especially superficially, is pretty wrong. Or at least it's not going to be as helpful for you as receiving from, again, someone who has learned it from ancient lineage traditions, and also has experienced it energetically and on the higher planes of consciousness over and over and over and over and over again. So I actually experienced it on the higher planes of consciousness before I ever learned what it was. I actually left my body for the first time when I was perhaps 14 or so. And I looked around and I was just like, how am I asleep but awake? And why is my body laying there on the bed? And then I was like, if I'm not a body, what am I? Right? If I'm standing here and I have consciousness of being here, what am I? And so I looked down to see what I was, and I wasn't a body. I was a string of glowing light balls. They were just glowing, energetic, as though you could have a plasma ball floating in space, and I was a string of them. And that disoriented me so much. I was like, what is this? And then I went flying and spinning all over the place because I couldn't control myself anymore. So it was pretty hilarious. My guides were cracking up, as they often are. Like, oh, you're so adorable. So that was actually my first experience of our energy centers. And since then, I've had nothing more than thousands and thousands and thousands of more of my own and other people's energy centers. I can see them, I can feel them, I can sense them. I know what blockages are there, and, etc., by the grace of God. And so I know it, right? So there's plenty of traditions that know it too, that teach it well. And most people aren't finding that, aren't accessing that, and are not faithfully reproducing that. So you don't often find a very correct interpretation of it. You definitely can, but I didn't. I actually was at someone else's house years later, 4 years later, I don't know. And I saw a picture of a human, kind of like the one here, but a little bit more just focused on the 7 chakra system that we have: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, and on the body, and I saw that and I was like, oh my God, that's it. I've seen this. What is this? What is this called? They were like, it's the chakras. And I was like, what are chakras? Because I had the experiential knowledge, but I didn't have the words. I didn't know what to call it, right? So that was pretty fun for me. But right, so you're not always going to find this everywhere. There's also many more misunderstandings about what chakras are, or how many of them there are, and how to use them, what they mean, and all of this stuff, as well as other energy pathways that are really important in the body. So we're going to get deep into this, because this is one of the things that is the most helpful if you're going to offer healing to others, especially in a way that you want to provide them with some information. You don't have to know any of this to do any sort of energy healing, really. I mean, energy healing has been spontaneous through people forever, right? You walk up to a hurt, injured person or animal, and you're feeling compassion and love, and you rush to them, and you're like touching that, like you're energy healing without even meaning to, right? It's just what we do. So by no means you have to have any of the things in this class, but it makes it easier. It gives your logic brain and your, awake and aware consciousness something to sort of hold in order to translate what's going to come through. And so we're going to focus on this a lot in the class. It's going to be something really deep that we go into. That's a big portion of what we do. And this is a 6-class course. And so one of the classes is going to focus primarily on this. We're also going to, talk about being the spiritual channel. Again, we all are. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, we're all actually always channeling to some degree. We always have been. Most people are unconsciously channeling. Most people are unconsciously manifesting. Most people are unconsciously being drawn into higher level, and I only mean that to mean more clear and intentional wills in the universe. So they're like wrapped up in some media or some politician or some, idol or some whatever has got them, and their mind and their energy all goes to that. Or worse, sometimes they're accidentally, their energy's so low and they're so hurt and they're so harmed and they're so shut down that they're accidentally in league with much darker energetic or spiritual forces. But ideally, we're all aware that we are this spiritual channel, and we're channeling at the least ourselves at the highest levels. And then if we trust or love any other higher level spiritual beings that are on the higher side of things, again, not the lower level, not the dark, but the light, the bright, the life force, the God or source or heaven oriented side of things, then we're channeling that. Right? You always have a choice. You can look at it as like the two wolves thing. Everyone has two wolves inside of them. Sure, everyone has a choice though, but there is a polarity and you do have to choose. So when you know that and you do choose, the spiritual channel you already have is already brighter. When you don't know that and you don't choose, you just like, hopefully you have good guides and you're going to, it's all going to work out for you. But you're much more likely to create a lot more karma, a lot more harm, a lot more trauma, a lot more problems along your path. So we are going to, look at what it actually is to be a spiritual channel. What is it you're actually channeling? How do you actually do that? And this says, God created us to be channels of blessing. It says, but our ability to receive the resources with which he wants us to bless others depends on our being able to give them away freely, faithfully, and generously. I'm going to say that's true. It doesn't necessarily mean you don't have to accept some sort of money or compensation or exchange for it. And that's a whole part of the class too. But, just understanding what this channel is, how to be it, what it actually means, who's doing it. And the answer is everyone all the time. But right, how do we do it better and well and more intentionally? And how do we open and widen that channel? Is it going to be a big part of the class as well? And actually understanding, again, there's so much to this. There's so much to it. And it's not actually hard. It's just very intentional. It's very intentional. It's not hard. Everyone can do it. And it's not hard. It's very intentional. It takes a lot of practice. And so we're going to do that too. We're going to talk about sacred space, right? Setting up your sacred space and why. Why bother having a sacred space? Can't you just do this like I just said? You could run up to anyone, anywhere, and just be a healer? Absolutely. Absolutely. But there is deep purpose and deep meaning and deep effectiveness in creating a spiritual space. And there's certain ways of doing it. And there's certain things, and there's a lot of details you can add into that and layer into that make it a more profound, more powerful channel for what's going to come through from source or God for you. And so we'll talk all about that, all the different materials, all the different things. Why do different cultures use different things? What does it all mean? Which way is going to be best for you? Which tools or items for you, or none? Maybe you don't want none, but you're still going to have spiritual space. You're still going to set it up. All right. So we're going to talk about that, what it entails, really, really deeply detail, get into all of that. Colors, elements, all of it. So there's a lot that we can do on that. And this might be a less focus overall, but we're going to cover it in detail because everyone is going to be called to set up their space in a slightly different way. And we just want to know why we're doing it, what each thing is for, what's the purpose of it. Sometimes people go, and there's nothing wrong with this, but it just in the end isn't as efficient. I'm all about efficiency. I'm all about let's get as much done as we can, calmly, collected, and with intention, but let's be efficient. And a lot of people just go out, they get called to a sort of spiritual path or practice or, a level of service even, their spiritual channel, their healing, their psychic, their mediumship, whatever it is. And they just go out and buy everything that says it's spiritual. Like this spray and this bundle of herbs and this da-da-da. And again, nothing wrong with it, and trust your heart. And there's going to be a reason for all of that. And sometimes the reason is to see kind of what's bullshit and what's not, right? What is actually going to serve you and what doesn't matter at all. And so we're going to get deep into that too. And again, it requires some discernment. And it's one of those things, again, you can go out, you can find anybody probably will tell you, oh, do it like this, set it up like this and use that. And maybe it's fine. And maybe it's not. A lot of people have weird ulterior motives. A lot of people are wrong. A lot of people are doing this work for their own ego and gain. And so they're almost always got some tainted information coming through. So they might even suggest something to you that would be harmful in your practice, but maybe they don't even know it. They are just not the purest or clearest channel themselves. That's probably the most common, right? So you always want to be going with something you trust. You want to know why you're doing it. You want to know what it's actually for. And people will say things like, oh, this is this. I read it here. It's like, well, it might be. But how do you know, right? And this is part of what we'll be doing is knowing how to know. Knowing how to know and knowing how to do it for yourself instead of relying on other people to tell you. And that's what we want for everyone to be empowered, right? Every empowered channel helps humanity's progress infinitely, just uncountably high rewards when we do this work. So it ripples out, it's worth it, it's high level, it's good stuff. So spiritual space is another thing we're going to be focusing on. Also practices. This is another thing where there's a million spiritual practices. I have a million. I could publish a book right now that is just spiritual practices with no explanation, but just how to do them and what they're for. And it would be hundreds of pages long. Right now, I just publish it without editing. I've had it already because I gather it because, if you work with me, you'll often get a suggestion from your spiritual guides and allies, not from me, of which spiritual practice to be working on. And so I'll just go grab it from my list and like paste it into your email and you're off and running, right? So I've got a ton. Here's an image that I just found by looking spiritual practices, and this has 20 or more, 25, 30 different practices on it. So like there's a million spiritual practices. There's a million ways of meditating. So again, if you just go out, nothing wrong with it. It's your path. It's going to be perfect, right? It's fine, but it's not as efficient. If you just go out and you're like, what spiritual practice can I do? You'll find a ton. And some of them might not be the greatest. Some of them might not necessarily be best for you where you're at. Some of them might not be, the most efficient to get to what your goal is, especially if your goal is very specifically energy healing, channeling, spiritual channeling, heart-centered healing, as we're talking about here. If that's your goal. There's a handful of really good practices that have distilled all sorts of other things into just, here it is, let's go, let's do this. And they're all you'll need. You can add in others as you go if you want, if you feel called to them, whatever, cool. That doesn't matter. It's not going to hurt you. But here's the ones you actually need. Here's how to practice them the right way, the most effective way, the most efficient way for you to improve on your spiritual path, to open your spiritual channel, to actually become more psychic, more connected, right? More intuitive, and a larger channel for healing energy to come through. So really going to distill this down and practice those together every time we meet, right? To reinforce the habit, because ideally you're going to continue to practice these at least a handful of times a week, if not every day, if you're going to really step into your spiritual healing journey and offering this to other people, then you really want to do that. But also it's just the best for your spiritual path overall anyway, just is. And by the way, this causes physical healing, mental healing, emotional healing. So you're going to be healing on the way for sure. That's an automatic given on this path. There is no way to avoid it. You wouldn't want to avoid it because you'd be a shitty healer. So you're going to heal, and that's just the way it is. So all the practices, you're going to need exactly how to do them, exactly why you're going to be doing them, exactly what they accomplish, and then building that into this, routine that's very accessible for you if you're going to go forward in this spiritual path. So very cool. It cuts out a lot of time. I'm distilling, again, lifetimes of energy and information and practice here for you. We're also going to talk about psycho-spiritual protection. I used to teach just a psycho-spiritual protection course. I used to require that anyone that I was going to work with to go on a higher level journey, to open their spiritual channels, to step into their spiritual service, because I've been doing this one-on-one for years. And so I'd require them to take my psycho-spiritual protection class first Not because I'm like, oh, you have to do this and that, and like stacking up the money and upselling, but because I know how dangerous it is to not have protection on this journey. I know that demons are real and not just a thing the church made up to scare you into being good. I know that dark, disincarnate, negative entities and energies are absolutely attracted to people with a bright, shiny spiritual channel. And so I know how important it is to be very connected to the light and intentionally. I'm not trying to scare you away from this. I'm not going to say you're going to experience all sorts of psychic and spiritual attacks, if you start this path. I'm saying you always have experienced those, and you may notice them more because your spiritual channel will be open more and you'll be able to see and understand more on higher levels. You'll be more sensitive. And they might try to slide in and mislead you and do other things. So you got to have your protection game on point. And it's one of the most important things you can do. So, anytime I'm talking on another show and I'm being interviewed, or I'm not quite sure who my audience is, and especially if I'm suggesting people meditate or do these sorts of things, and if they ask me, for example, like, well, how do you do tarot, or how do you do, or any of this stuff, I will emphasize, well, you never do it before you know how to protect yourself. You never do anything spiritual before you know how to protect yourself, unless what you're talking about is just prayer. That's safe for anyone at any time if you know who you're praying to. So I should add, there's even that has an element of protection to it. And otherwise you want to protect yourself, and there's steps involved, and there's very clear things that you need to do. And it's, we're all protected. I'll say we're all protected to some degree by just our soul, our spiritual guides, and our ancestors and others. But if you also have free will. So if you're just plunging in and they were like, stop, and you didn't notice, then you can get into some troubles. So if you've been following me long enough, some of mine. I went through trial by fire, right? Like here, experience it so experience the darkness so you know exactly what you're up against, and you know how to protect yourself from it. And by the way, you're 100% protectable. And again, it's just like channeling itself or stepping into your spiritual service and your spiritual skills itself. You just have to know it and choose it. You just have to be really clear about what exactly you're doing, with who and with what, and what's going on. And that's it. Just like just like your protection in your home. You're like, okay, here's the boundary of my property. Here's who can and can't come on it. Here's what's allowed and not allowed. This is what I'm doing. Just that is enough, right? Often you might sometimes have to pull out the bigger guns, literally or figuratively, to continue to keep those boundaries. But, you at least have to start from that place. And so we're going to talk all about exactly how to do that, what it means, why, and how to stay protected no matter what we're doing, no matter how high level the skills we're practicing. So that's a big part of it as well. I just think it's so important for everyone. I would hope everyone just could take that part of the class. That's why I used to offer it as its own class, Psycho-Spiritual Protection. But if you're out there and you're like, I don't want to take the class, but I want to know more about this, you can always go book the coaching and talk session. That's exactly what these are for. It's, again, like I said, they're counseling and therapy sometimes, and then sometimes it's for people who just want to learn, a piece of what I have to offer. So, feel free to do that if you do just want that piece of it. But spiritual protection is part of it. Another really big one, as I just kind of indicated, is knowing who you're talking to, knowing who your guides are, knowing who your totem animals or spirit guides, knowing what it is that you're channeling, who it is that you're channeling, or who it is that is working with you on the higher levels, if anyone. And there's a couple ways to do that. And we're going to talk about all of them. And we're going to make sure everyone has their connection, their sort of spiritual crew. You already have them. Again, this is another thing. Like, everyone has a spiritual family, a spiritual crew, a spiritual set of guides. Everyone has their guardian angel. Everyone has these. Just the vast majority of people don't know anything about it. They've never, found out or understood who or what they are connected to on the higher levels. And so we're going to know. We're going to very intentionally find out. And we have very specific things that we then do with these. beings and guides and entities. So, and they're all of the light, they're all of the good, true, and beautiful. I don't teach people to connect to anything but that. This is also why I don't teach summoning. I don't teach sigils. I don't teach any kind of invocation magic or anything like that. I teach people to connect with the crew they already had when they came in. Their soul has already decided and aligned with these beings. They're already known as good, true, and beautiful. They're already of the light, life, and love. That's who we're connecting to. So I don't work with any other modalities or types of things. And, this class is very universal. It's very much able to work with people from any path, any tradition, any, background or belief structure, or any ethnic sort of set of deities or whatnot. That's all appropriate because they are all good, true, and beautiful, or they at least all have good, true, and beautiful aspects. So anything can be supported within this modality, but we are going to make very sure that we know who and what, where and when and why, how to connect with and access these energies and to work with them if that's what you choose to do. Again, there's ways to do this that don't require you by any means to have a set of spiritual guides and allies like this. In that case, you would connect specifically and directly to source or God or heaven or whatever you conceive of that energy as. So that's also possible, right? But I think most people who are on this path and called to this understand that there's more than a few spirit guides on their behalf that are around and wanting to help. And so we're going to learn how to connect with them and how to be guided by them, honestly. Have them be our translators for the spiritual realms. They all have very important jobs to help us do. So that's going to be a big specific part of the class as well. And again, then we're going to get into the step-by-step. Like, here's how you do from start to finish an energy healing session. Here's what it looks like. Here's what you'll be doing. Here's what the person will be doing, whether it's distance or right in front of you. Here's how you do it, step by step. Here we go, right? Down to it. And this is, again, the part that I'm kind of the most excited about because everything else is something I've taught from time to time in various ways, but I've never taught this. No, I've never taught this before. And so it's pretty powerful stuff, pretty big stuff. And again, this will be applicable to many modalities, actually. It doesn't matter, for example, if you want to eventually do sound healing or you want to do Reiki or something else. This is directly applicable to anything or none of that. You don't have to have a specific modality. You can just be using this heart-centered healing as your modality. So either or, doesn't matter. Either or and both, right? So step by step, literally, here's what you do. Here's how you do it. Here's how to do it safely. This is like start to finish what we do in each session that we offer to anybody. And very, very clear on exactly what that is and how to do it, what to be doing, what not to be doing, and all the different variations therein. And then again, how to apply that to any future modality that you might choose, like which you don't have to, because this is enough. You don't need anything else. So I want to keep emphasizing that, but I also want to let you know, like, you can always grow and add more from here if you want to. That's always something that you can do. This is a universal modality. It's heart-centered healing. It's applicable to any and all things. It's actually the distillation of all modalities. That's why it's so universal. So step by step, how you do it. That's a part of this class. And then we're going to actually practice it. You're going to actually do it. And you're going to do this in 3 different application-based practicum sessions where you will be literally practicing energy healing on a person. Very safe, very supported, very low stakes. There's nobody's going to, grade you on this or criticize it, or right. It's just so you get practice doing it before you're sent off into the world to then ask yourself, what now, right? What now? So after you practice it multiple times on multiple people in multiple ways in a very, I'm excited about. My favorite is the actual practice. I'm most excited about this part. Just as a teacher, I just know I can throw all the information at you that I want to, and it means nothing if I don't have you do it. If you don't actually do it, it's not yours. You don't keep it, right? Again, we have to practice it or else it atrophies. So we're going to practice this directly multiple times throughout the class, and not in front of everyone, right? Just like in a very protected place with each person. And so It's going to be great. It's going to be fantastic. And I'm very excited about that because you will probably go then and offer this to people. And you may do that just in kind of a casual, most of my life, this was something that just happened. People would come to me and it would just work out that way, or they'd ask me for something and I'd be able to provide it, or I'd be guided to go up to them and say, can we, kind of work with some of this and like, tune some of their aura and that sort of stuff. Very casual, but eventually I was invited to do this professionally and to offer it as a service. And you might too. So if you do this class, you might say, yeah, I want to now offer this to people. Maybe not even right away. Maybe for a little while, you'll just practice it. Maybe then you'll step into, offering it as a service, but we will have a portion of this class towards the end on, how do you actually do that? How do you actually what to think about? What are some of the pitfalls, right? What are some of the tips that make this go much smoother? What are the ways that you actually put this into practice as, again, you could call it a business or a career or just a professional service or whatever you want to think of it as is fine. How do you actually do that? What do you need to think about? I'm not talking about the legal part where you go register as a business and whatever, although I've got plenty of tips on that too, especially for tax purposes. But so I'm not opposed to offering that to people too, but yeah, just how do you actually do this as a professional service or a more intentional service that you offer to other people? And so tips on that too. So very practical. Again, in the end, you should walk away with the ability to know exactly what you're doing on an energetic and spiritual level, what and who you're doing it with, how it's working, how you actually do it step by step, and how you can then turn it into this thing that you offer the world more publicly if you choose to. You never have to do that, but it's an option for everybody. And part of what is also so powerful about this course, I just can't even believe actually how much I've been invited to offer in this course. Again, I follow my guidance. I don't just sit down and go, I want to do this now. Like that's not how it works with me. Because I learned a long time ago that's not the best way. So I wait till I'm guided and told very directly by my guides to do something, and then I do. So I was told to do this class. I was actually guided to do it by one of my favorite guides, which is Jesus. And he told me, like, do a class in September and it's going to be a heart-centered healing class. And I was like, oh, okay, sure. So then when I actually sat down to like download, channel through what the class was actually going to entail, I was blown away by the price I was told to offer it for and how much people get. There is no reason it should be this cheap. There's none. It's incredibly value packed. And one of the things that makes it so valuable is that there's going to be blessings specifically. So this is one of the services I've been guided to offer people are blessings, and blessings are a very direct healing energy that comes through, often with a lot of information and often targeted to a specific purpose. So instead of a full energy healing that you might do on someone, this is like, oh, you need your arm to heal so you can go on this biking trip next month, or you need some abundance to come through, because it's seeming distant from you right now, or you need some clarity on this or that. So blessings are pretty attuned to a specific thing and high level energy that comes through. So the people who come to me for blessings come to me over years because they get a blessing and then how their life changes. Right. So there's going to be blessings built in too. So you're going to receive blessings during this course specifically to help you receive, integrate, and then offer through a wider and wider spiritual channel these divine gifts. That's a pretty high level blessing. And it's going to be multiple times, if not every class. It depends on what I'm guided to do, but that's a lot of blessings. That's a lot of blessings in a short time. This is a 6-week course, as I said, so up to 6 blessings included in this course, which was not part of what I initially announced because I just wanted to get clearer on exactly what that was going to be. I'm not usually mixing my energy offerings with my teaching. And so this is sort of like blended together and very interesting. So very high level, very high value. And this course has been offered for $666. Someone said, oh, what an interesting number. As though there's something wrong with it. And I know that in the mass mind, 666 is this like evil number. It's not actually, by the way. Numerologically, there's nothing wrong with the number 6. There's therefore nothing wrong with 6 repeated. I know in the Bible it says it's the number of the Antichrist, but as I've talked about multiple times before, it's not that. It's actually just the number of material reality. It's just the number of material expression. It's just this. It's physical reality. It's 3D space time. So nothing wrong with that. And that's just the number. You may notice a lot of my prices are repeating numbers. That's just the guidance I get. They come in that way. Every once in a while, they're not, but very rarely. And there's always reasons why. But this is a crazy low amount to pay. By the way, this is on my site, not my Calendly. So a lot of times I go through my Calendly, but I have this on my site because my site now has Afterpay. So if you go to the shop on roguesoul.org and you click on the Heart-Centered Healer course, then you have this option, if it's available to you. It's like Afterpay or Klarna or, one of those things. So you could break this into payments. It has nothing to do with me. It's not like I'm judging you or I even know what you did. I just have realized it's an option, and some people are really excited about that on the site. So, if you do need payments, this is the way to do it. If you do need to break that up into lower payments, that's the way. So I'm just glad that exists. It's really cool to be able to offer that. This starts September 14th, so just a few weeks as of this show. And it's a 6-week course. Again, we're going to meet 6 times in the actual classes, and then we're going to have 3 practicums and the blessings. So there's a lot built into it. But the class times are Sundays from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. Some people can't come at that time. The classes are recorded, so you can actually still participate. You're always welcome to send in questions or to, connect with me and receive extra support, because sometimes, when you're live in the class, you get to, ask more and sort of receive more. So that's available to people who can't make it to those live sessions, or if you have to skip one here or there or whatever, that's available. Those recordings will be available all the way through the course and for a few weeks afterwards. So you'll be able to revisit them if you want to, take extra notes, etc. That's all going to be available no matter what. And then the workshops are going to be to be determined by you and whoever you're kind of going to be partnered up with to do those healing sessions. So those are going to be, various times. It's going to work for you no matter what. You won't miss those because you can't, because you're the one who's going to create the time for them. So ideally, we're going to do them all together. Like, that's my goal. Hopefully the whole class can agree on times that we can all come together and do that. But if not, you and your partners will just do it when you can. Nothing going to be lost there. So it doesn't matter if you can't make it at those exact times. You can actually still participate in the course in a supported way where you still get everything. You still feel very, very connected to it and a part of it. I've had people take courses like that in the past. They're fantastic. It's great. So yeah, that is the course. Workshops and all of the tools, all of the information for you to step into your healing and spiritual practice. And you can go here to roguesoul.org, go to the shop. And in the shop, it's actually the first item there as of now, unless I have a new Orgone batch come out that displaces it. It should be right there at the top. And I really hope that you're going to join us. I can't imagine anything better than being able to offer this course to you all. I can't imagine anything better than people stepping this deeply into their spiritual channel and choosing to connect with the highest truth and goodness of all things and allow that to come through them into this world, and to do it in a way in which they feel safe, empowered, fully supported, deeply knowledgeable. I'm just so excited. I'm so honored to be able to teach this, have been called to offer this to people. And we have a fantastic group of people already. It's going to be big because the people who are stepping up to do this are like ready. They're excited, and it's a big group of awesome people. So I really hope you're going to join us as well. I always say, like, I would love to offer it again. I don't know, because I'm not there yet. I have to see what the guidance is, right? So I'd like to offer it again. It seems like a cool opportunity to offer again. I really don't know. So you might, if you feel called, I'd say sign up now, and just that way you've got it. That's what I would do if it were me. That's what I would suggest based on what I can share with you now. And so hope to see you there in just a few weeks. There's one more thing If you're on my email list and you got an email about this, there is a 15-minute consultation that I'm offering to people. It's free. So if you just want to hop on really quick and talk about if this is right for you, or if you just have questions about it or how it will go, or how you're going to be asked to participate or anything like that that you're unsure about, let's chat. Let's chat and let's just do that really quick. And so you can get that out of the way and settle on what is calling you and your heart forward in this very special time on earth, of which I'm so honored to be a part of what's coming through for everyone. So until you sign up for heart-centered healing, travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first. Mwah.
Glued to them screens, it's a plot to drop the IQ. Fighting amongst each other over rumors that don't like you. Prefer us trapped in melancholy with the wood ones of holly. Suggestions that obliterate to camouflage the folly. Attempted mental robbery, executed softly. The hypocrisy, this mockery, and walk the talk with me. Put the hands up to touch the Akasha, cause you know deep down there's something bigger than your wallet.